You get a raise, and the first thing that happens before you even check the exact number is your mind starts moving. Not toward savings, not toward debt, toward permission. Like the raise is some kind of approval from the universe that you're allowed to live bigger now. That's the first thing worth noticing. The raise doesn't just change your bank balance, it changes what you feel entitled to. And that shift in entitlement, that's where everything starts going wrong. Because here's the thing, you worked hard for that raise. Maybe for years, you stayed late, you handled things you weren't paid to handle. You were patient when you wanted to quit. So when the money finally comes, spending it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like justice, like you're finally receiving what you were always supposed to have. And that emotional framing, I earned this, makes it almost impossible to pause and think clearly. Because pausing feels ungrateful. It feels like you're punishing yourself for succeeding. So you don't pause, you upgrade. Maybe not immediately, maybe not dramatically, but gradually. The phone first, then the food, then the apartment, or the car, or the wardrobe. Each one feels isolated. Each one has a completely reasonable explanation. My old phone was slowing down. I just wanted to try that restaurant once. The commute is actually saving me time. And none of these are lies. Every single justification has real truth in it. That's what makes lifestyle inflation so invisible while it's happening. It doesn't look like a pattern. It looks like a series of sensible, individual choices. But step back far enough and you see it. The baseline moved quietly, completely. The things that used to feel like treats are now just Tuesday. The restaurant you used to go to on anniversaries is now where you go when you don't feel like cooking. The vacation you used to save for 6 months to afford is now just the minimum acceptable trip. Your floor went up, and your floor going up means your expenses went up permanently, because you can't really go back, not easily, not without it feeling like failure. And that word, failure, is important here, because one of the most underrated forces behind lifestyle inflation is the fear of regression. Once you've lived a certain way, living below that feels like going backwards. It feels like losing. Even if objectively you'd still be comfortable. Even if the downgrade would still be a life most people in the world would consider luxurious. It doesn't matter. Your reference point has shifted, and humans don't measure their lives in absolute terms. We measure relative to what we've already had. So going from a nice apartment back to a basic one doesn't feel neutral. It feels like punishment, and nobody voluntarily accepts punishment. This is where I think the real psychological trap lives. It's not in the spending itself. It's in the way your identity slowly reorganizes itself around a certain standard of living. Think about it for a second. When you start eating at better restaurants regularly, you don't just enjoy the food more. You start becoming someone who eats at those places. It becomes part of how you see yourself, part of how others see you. And identity is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. People will do almost anything to protect their identity. They'll go into debt to protect it. They'll ignore financial red flags to protect it, because the alternative, admitting that you can't actually afford the life you've been living, that's not just a financial problem, that's an identity crisis. And the social dimension makes all of this so much heavier, because you're not inflating in isolation. Everyone around you is inflating too. Your colleagues who got the same raise are upgrading their lives at the same time. Your friends from college are hitting new income levels, and you can feel it in where they suggest meeting. The hotels change, the gifts get more expensive, the group trips get more ambitious. And even if nobody is explicitly pressuring you, the social environment is constantly recalibrating what normal looks like. what a reasonable birthday dinner costs, what a standard vacation involves, what a decent car is. Your definition of enough is being quietly rewritten by everyone around you, not through any individual conversation, just through exposure, through what you see and absorb constantly. There's actually a term in psychology, hedonic adaptation, the idea that humans return to a baseline level of happiness relatively quickly after positive changes. You get the raise, you feel great for a while, then it becomes the new normal. And the new normal stops feeling special, so you need the next thing to feel good again. It's not greed, it's just how human psychology works. We are genuinely terrible at sustaining gratitude for things we've gotten used to. The apartment that felt amazing when you first moved in, 6 months later, it's just where you live. The car you were so excited about, a year later, it's just how you get to work. The excitement fades, but the expense doesn't. The expense is locked in, monthly, annually, indefinitely. Wait, and this connects to something that I think is actually the most dangerous part of this whole thing. The raises keep coming, hopefully, but each one lands on a higher baseline. So the percentage of the raise that actually improves your financial position keeps shrinking. Your first big raise might have genuinely moved the needle, but by the 5th raise, you're just treading water faster. The income grew, the lifestyle grew to match it, the savings rate stayed flat or got worse. And from the outside, your own outside, the story you tell yourself, it looks like you're doing better and better. New car, better apartment, nicer vacations. But internally, the financial structure is almost identical to what it was years ago, maybe even more fragile, because now you have more to maintain, more subscriptions, more obligations, more lifestyle to fund. No, actually, let me slow down on that last thought, because I think there's something even more specific happening with subscriptions and recurring costs that nobody really talks about. The subscription model, streaming services, apps, memberships, meal kits, whatever, is almost perfectly designed to exploit lifestyle inflation psychology, because each individual subscription is cheap. $12 a month, $15 a month, $20. None of them feel significant. So you never make a conscious decision to spend more. You just accumulate, slowly. And because each charge is small and automatic, it never triggers the same mental review that a large purchase would. You don't think about it the way you'd think about buying something for $300. But add it all up across a year, across multiple years, it's not trivial anymore. It's a significant recurring drain that you didn't consciously design and probably haven't consciously reviewed in a long time. And this is the thing about lifestyle inflation that I keep coming back to. Most of it isn't dramatic. It's not a sports car or a yacht. It's just everything costing a little more than it used to. Groceries at the nicer store instead of the budget one. Coffee that costs $4 instead of making it at home. Ubers instead of waiting for the bus. Dry cleaning instead of doing laundry yourself. None of these feel like financial decisions. They feel like quality of life preferences, but they're all expenses, and they all compound, and they all become the new baseline that you now need your income to support. There's also something worth thinking about regarding the way raises are actually structured in most jobs. A typical raise is somewhere between 3 and 7% annually if you're doing well. But inflation, actual economic inflation, is eating into that, and lifestyle inflation is eating into the rest. So the raise that felt meaningful on paper, after taxes, after the cost of living increase, after the lifestyle creep, how much of it actually improved your financial position? Genuinely, if you tracked it honestly. For most people, the answer is uncomfortable. The number is smaller than it should be. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's negative. And then there's the retirement math that sits underneath all of this quietly. Because when you inflate your lifestyle, you're not just spending more now, you're also raising the bar for what retirement needs to fund. If you're used to spending $4,000 a month, you need a retirement that can sustain $4,000 a month for decades. That's a significantly larger number than someone living on $2,000 a month needs. So every lifestyle upgrade you lock in today, you're also locking in a bigger retirement target, which means more years of working, more years of saving, more pressure on every financial decision going forward. Nobody thinks about it this way in the moment. In the moment, it's just a nicer apartment or a better car. But the long-term math is brutal if you actually run it. I think what makes this topic so hard to act on, even when people understand it intellectually, is that the solution doesn't feel like a solution.